You know when you're trying to lay down at night, completely exhausted, but your mind just won't stop. It replays conversation, rehashes our mistakes, imagines all the ways that things will go wrong. It spirals with what ifs and if onlys or I should haves over and over and over again. And the worst part is now you can't even get comfortable. You're tired, but you can't even rest. Hello, friend, and welcome to Torches, Yoga, and Mindfulness. I'm Lauren, and I'll be your coach. If you are curious about mindfulness, healing, and practical habits that actually work, you are in the right place. Here we focus on simple but powerful practices grounded in ancient wisdom and modern science to care for both your mind and body. So go ahead, hit that like and subscribe so you don't miss what's next. So if you have ever experienced anything like I was describing before, you're not alone. And it actually has a name. It's called rumination. And today we're going to talk about what it is, how it affects us, and why it shows up so strongly at night. And of course, most importantly, I'll show you how you can step out of it with awareness, nervous system regulation, and compassionate redirection. Rumination is a pattern of repetitive negative thinking, and it usually pulls us into the past. The ego loves to ruminate. When we are in rumination, our mind it's not trying to solve the past issues or to learn from them, just wants to relive them emotionally over and over. This is where rumination and reflection differ. See, reflection, it leads to insight and movement, while rumination leads to being stuck, emotional exhaustion, increased anxiety, and deeper self-criticisms. It's the difference between saying, what can I learn from this? And why do I always mess everything up? Nothing ever works out for me. One moves us forward, while the other tightens the spiral and its grip on us. The good news is that your brain isn't broken for doing this. Rumination is the ego side of the brain trying to protect us, prevent future pain, and find certainty in something that's uncertain. But the problem is the brain doesn't understand time the same way our heart does. So the brain's up here like, I'm going to replay this past event. But it sends signals to our bodies and our nervous system during that same event as if it were happening right then and right there. So our body thinks it's happening. Our body releases the stress hormone, and our muscles start to tighten, our breath shortens, our heart rate shifts. So even though we're safe laying in bed, our body still thinks we're in danger. And that strengthens the loop. It trains our brains and our body that this is what it should be doing because we simply don't give it other directions or cues. We don't have to just rely on catching the thoughts either. One of the most powerful ways to catch rumination early is to listen to our bodies. Rumination will show up in our bodies as tightened shoulders, clenched jaw, shallow breath, restlessness, a heavy chest, butterflies in your stomach, or that wired but tired feeling. If you notice these things happening in your body, that's your cue to tune into what's happening in your mind. Rumination is strongly connected to both anxiety and depression. With anxiety, rumination often sounds like, what if something bad happens? Nothing ever works out. Or I'm the problem. And the danger is that rumination doesn't just reflect in our mood, it feeds our mood. The more we ruminate, the more anxious or hopeless we feel. The more anxious and hopeless we feel, the more we ruminate. It's a vicious cycle, and it becomes self-reinforcing loop that we get stuck in. And if you've been around the channel for a while, you may remember earlier this year we talked about mindfulness skill number 4 in the 8 Skills of Mindfulness series. During that segment, we talked about sneaky energy leaks, and rumination is a big one. It drains our mental energy, our emotional, physical, creative, and that energy. It keeps us trapped in the stories instead of processing them. When we stay stuck in rumination, we trade presence for replay, peace for prediction, and it slowly stills our capacity for joy. Maybe you feel like during the day you're fine and not falling into those rumination spirals, but as soon as your head hits the pillow, it's like your thoughts just start attacking you. And you're not alone in that. During the day, whether we realize it or not, we're buffered by a lot of things. We have movement, noise, conversations, responsibilities, screens, and people all keeping us distracted and occupied. Even if it's stress, there's something still there, still pulling our attention outward. But at night, all of that fades away. The house gets quiet, our body finally slows down, the lights are low, and the distractions disappear. In that quietness, our nervous systems that have been holding it together all day finally get a chance to speak. And all that is left in the quiet is our unfinished emotional processing, unexpressed feelings, unresolved conversations, and unanswered questions, and those thought loops that never really get addressed. So the mind does what it knows how to do, and it replays, it reviews, it analyzes, and it tries to logic its way through everything. So one of their very first and most important shifts you can make with rumination is something incredibly powerful, and that's labeling. Label what is happening. When we find ourselves in the rumination spiral, it feels personal. It feels like it's who we are, like it's all we are. The thoughts in that rumination spiral start to feel like our truth. But the moment we label it, we create just a little bit of space between the thought and our true selves. That smidgen of space is all we need to pull ourselves out of the spiral. And we become the one noticing the spiral, not the one falling down it. So instead of thinking I'm broken, try gently shifting to I'm noticing that my mind is ruminating right now. Instead of believing the thought, this will never end, soften it into I'm noticing my thoughts feel overwhelming in this moment. That might seem like such a small, insignificant thing, but it makes an enormous impact on how our brains will move forward from the spiral. Once we create that tiny bit of space, we also create room for gentleness, compassion, and choice. Room for something new. It's not about stopping the thoughts. It's about not getting tangled up in them when they do come. Now that we kind of know the who, what, and why of rumination, let's talk about how we interrupt it. We're not fixing anything, shaming ourselves, or looking for perfection, just interruption and redirection. I have 8 practices for you to try out. And I don't mean you have to work all 8 into your daily schedule. Find 1 or 2 that work for you, that resonate with you, and stick to those. All right, for number 1 on our list, of course, it's going to be mindful meditation. But I don't mean you have to sit like a monk in stillness for hours. This doesn't mean clearing your mind, just noticing when it has wandered. So maybe you drop your attention into your breath, your body, the candle flame, or the support of the ground or chair beneath you. Bring your attention there. Just notice when it wanders off, and every return is a rep when we are training our brain with kindness. I have several guided meditations on my channel if you want to check those out. I would also recommend our body scan workshop. We did that earlier this year, but I'll have the links in the comments below. All right, practice number 2 is going to be move the body. Rumination is mental motion with no physical release, but movement gives the nervous system an outlet. And for a little extra pro tip, this means any movement that you are going to do it mindfully, paying attention to how your body moves or how the movements and sensations feel in your body. Any movement works. If you need to, put on your favorite song and dance around your room, or headbang, that counts. If you need to mow the yard or rake leaves, that counts too. You don't have to feel better. You just have to move the energy. All right, practice number 3 is cognitive reframing. Consider alternatives to your initial perspective. This isn't about trying to argue with our thoughts or delude ourselves that everything is fine. It's about offering our mind another angle to look at things. Like if you make an error on something, instead of saying to yourself, I always mess up or I ruin everything, try, I made a mistake. I'm human. I'm allowed to learn. You're not lying to yourself. You're balancing the perspective that your nervous system just can't access when it's overwhelmed. When we're stressed, the brain defaults to threat-based thinking. Reframing activates our prefrontal cortex, bringing in the reasoning and the emotional regulation, giving our mind a calmer, more accurate viewpoint. Now we're at practice number 4. We're going to consciously distract ourselves. Engaging our senses pulls us out of mental loops and back into our body. So sometimes the most grounding thing you can do is to fold the laundry, wash the dishes, or go play with a pet. Something simple and sensory. Something that uses your hands and your attention. Rumination thrives on empty mental space. Presence fills that space with something real and tangible. It interrupts repetitive thinking by giving our brain a task that is safe, rhythmic, and grounding. So, worrying is absolutely natural. The world can be a scary place sometimes, and our instinct is to survive. Before I tell you practice number 5, keep in mind mindfulness doesn't always mean we try to stop the thoughts or pretend like everything is perfect. And for practice number 5, we're going to schedule our worry time. I promise this one is backed by psychology. Choose 10 to 15 minute window each day or just a few times a week where you sit down to process, journal, reflect, or think through what's on your mind. When rumination pops up outside of your scheduled worried time, you can gently say, "Not right now. I'll think about this during worry time." This isn't avoidance, it's containment. And the brain relaxes when it knows there will be a time to think things through. Creating a container like this reduces intrusive thoughts because your mind doesn't feel the pressure to solve everything. When you're in your worry time, set a timer and stick to the allotted time. If your timer goes off and you're mid-thought, tell yourself, "That's all we have time for today. I'll pick back up here next time." Okay, practice number 6 is kind of a practice, kind of a caution. Talking to someone we trust can be a powerful medicine. It helps us gain perspective, discharge emotion, and can make us feel less alone. But there is a difference between being witnessed and spiraling together. So reach out for that friend that can sit with you, let you exhale, and help untangle the knots in your mind simply by being there. Being witnessed feels grounding. Co-rumination feels like two people handing each other heavier bags to carry. Turn to the friend or loved one who can hold space for you without adding fuel to the fire. Being emotionally witnessed helps to regulate our nervous system. It softens tension and signals safety. But when you and another person keep revisiting the same worries, the brain strengthens those stress pathways. Supportive connection soothes, mutual spiraling accidentally amplifies the noise. All right, friend, practice number 7 is self-compassion because shame is gasoline for rumination. Compassion is water. It cools everything down so you can actually think clearly again. And self-compassion doesn't have to be dramatic. It may simply be choosing to talk to yourself the way you naturally talk to the people you love when they are hurting. It may sound like you're doing your best. It's okay that this feels heavy, or you don't have to have all the answers right now. Self-compassion isn't about avoiding responsibility or pretending nothing happens. It's about removing the harsh, unhelpful, punishing commentary that keeps us frozen in place. You don't have to beat yourself up to move forward. Compassion activates the parasympathetic nervous system, our rest and digest and healing space. When your system feels safe, your mind stops scanning for danger, which naturally reduces rumination. So your brain no longer feels like it has to protect you by overthinking every detail. Before we move on to practice number 8, if you know the struggle with self-compassion, After this video, I want you to go down to the description. I will link in 2 videos we did earlier this year on mindfulness skill number 2, which is compassion. All right, last but not least, practice number 8, which is externalization. Get the thoughts out of your head, whether that's journaling, drawing, painting, collaging, whatever your preferred medium is, get the thoughts out. We're not meant to carry everything internally. Writing and creative expression creates a separation, a little distance between you and the story in your mind. And that distance is where we find clarity. When we externalize our thoughts, we reduce our cognitive load. Our brains don't have to rehearse or remember everything, which quiets mental loops and gives our system space to process. Okay, remember how earlier we mentioned that for some, rumination hits its hardest at night. So I do want to walk you through a simple grounding practice that I want you to try the next time rumination keeps you from your beauty sleep. So while you're laying there in bed, you're trying to get comfy, get settled in, your brain starts going, I want you to place one hand on your chest and another on your abdomen. And you're going to feel the contact of your hands on your body. Notice it. Maybe it's warm, or maybe like me, your hands are cold. Just notice how it feels. Speak to yourself, to your body, to your being, and tell yourself, I'm here with you. Take a slow inhale through your nose, feeling your body expand and rise under your hands. And then take a long, gentle exhale through the mouth. Don't rush the breath out, just let it flow, like you're giving your system permission to unwind. And if it helps, say to yourself, in this moment, I am safe. Because that's all we need to anchor to. Just this moment, not tomorrow, not the past, and definitely not the what ifs. As thoughts float through your mind, watch them drift right through, like clouds across a quiet sky. No need to chase them, no need to answer them or finish them. Remind yourself there is nothing that is needed to be solved right now. Your mind may try to keep rehearsing the day. That's just the old wiring, the old programming. But we can rewire and reprogram. Remember, sleep isn't something to force. It's something to allow when we soften the grip on our thoughts. Just stay with your breath and let your system settle into its own natural ease. And friend, that's it. Connect to your breath and let it hold your attention, not the thoughts. Okay, one more thing I do want to mention. Sometimes rumination is just a habit that the mind slips into. Other times, it's a sign that your system is carrying more than it can process alone. If the spirals are constantly hijacking your sleep, consuming most of your day, bringing a deepening depression, increasing anxiety or panic, or if you find you are isolating yourself from people and things you care about, this is when reaching out for extra support can make an enormous difference. And please know, support is not weakness. Support is wisdom. It's recognizing that we don't have to carry everything alone. You're not meant to, and you deserve help that lightens the load. My friend, rumination is not a character flaw or proof that you are failing anything. It's not a sign that you are too sensitive or too much. Rumination is just a nervous system doing its best to survive, even if the strategy is outdated or unhelpful. You don't need to silence every thought or master mindfulness. You don't need to fix yourself to be worthy of peace. All you need to do is to start noticing the spiral and gently choosing moment by moment to come back to the present with patience, practice, and compassion for ourselves. Every single time we interrupt the loop, we reclaim a little more space inside for our own lives to thrive. Friend, thank you so much for sharing a piece of your day with me. Stay present, stay kind to yourself, and I will see you soon.